has never been a more important time to move in a vegan direction. Whether you're ready to start, restart, or re-energize your vegan or plant-based practice, this podcast is for you. I'm Michelle Olander, life coach, vegan, ADHD matriarch, travel lover, and smoothie loather. And I know that it's the details that get in the way of your vegan journey. But I like to believe that the obstacle is always the way. So every week we meet here where I translate the tools of life coaching and Stoic philosophy. I bring you actionable tips, some laughs, interesting guests, and vegan ideas for everyone at any age. All to help you veg your best. Episode 239. We can't be what we can't see. Hi, my Veg Your Bestie. It's April. Happy April. And April 1st today, as this episode drops, and if you don't know me very well, let me assure you that I am emphasis on not at all someone who likes April Fool's jokes or practical jokes or punking or whatever it is the kids call it these days. Not at all. Really no, hard pass. But it is April 1st, beginning of Q2, the second quarter of 2025. And I, for one, at the end of last year, at the end of 2024, I was a little overwhelmed about some of the things that were on my plate for the first quarter of 2025. And here we are, April 1st, and I got through it. And I hope if you had a daunting quarter one on your plate, I hope you got through it too. And I hope we can get through a lot of these things together. And actually, more than just getting through it, I actually can say that I had a very good first 3 months of 2025. And so for me, I want to take a minute to metaphorically high five myself for having gotten through a bunch of things that had been hanging over me. And sometimes that included just putting one foot in front of the other and trusting the process. They say, okay, quick tangent. Someone was telling me that they were going to just trust the process. And I think that's fine, but call me a stick in the mud there. I think there actually has to be some sort of process to trust. So that's, long story short, we're just going to cut past all of it. But that's what James Clear teaches in his book, Atomic Habits. So relevant there. The quote that shows up always in coaching sessions: you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. So what I'm saying is that to trust the process, there actually has to be some sort of a process or a system. And in coaching, that's a lot of what we're doing. Week by week, noticing where our thoughts and focus aren't leading in the direction we want, and then creating safe, positive ways of learning to work a new process. And a big part of that process is being able to see or to visualize or to imagine ourselves, yourself, you, at your age, in your circumstances, with your traditions and family situation and ethnicity and abilities. A big part of that process to be able to see you on this new path. Because you can't be what you can't see. That's a quote, most often attributed to Marian Wright Edelman. I'm not certain that she herself created that quote out of full cloth, but she said it often, and it was part of her mission as the founder of the Children's Defense Fund. She was an advocate for justice and education and equity. And in 1973, Marian Wright Edelman was one of the founders of the Children's Defense Fund to advocate for the needs of children, particularly those who are poor, minority, and differently abled. And the CDF, the Children's Defense Fund, became a leading voice for children's issues, conducting research, advocating for things that we take for granted now, like Head Start, foster care reform, childhood immunization, prenatal care, family economic security. May it all still be here when you are listening to this. Anyway, the Children's Defense Fund was primarily about children and the need to see people like themselves when they looked out into television and into their neighborhoods, whether their ethnicity or their race or their physical abilities or gender was visible out there in leadership and in opportunity. And the truth of that phrase stretches far beyond childhood. It's true in every stage of life because it really is hard. You can't be what you can't see. We all need to be able to see ourselves, to imagine ourselves somehow reflected in the media we consume, in the people we admire, in the communities that we join, especially if we're trying to do something that's new or different or unexpected or outside the norm of our family or our culture or of our generation. And if you're someone in midlife or beyond, if you're exploring a plant-based or vegan lifestyle, it can be hard to see yourself in that world. Visibility can be hard to find. And why does this matter right now? Why am I talking about it today? Well, I have a weekly podcast, so I have different things that are coming up to me all the time. But right now, honestly, we are living in a cultural moment where ideas around diversity, equity, and inclusion, ideas are being questioned, resisted, even rolled back in some spaces. But here's the thing. Here's my 2 cents. Here's what today is about. Representation isn't about exclusion. I think it's about expansion. It's about making space for more people to feel seen, to feel safe, to be supported in choices that reflect their values. And when it comes to plant-based living, I see it all the time. Visibility matters deeply because if we never see someone like ourselves, someone our age, someone with our background, someone with our body type or family traditions or religious beliefs or health concerns or lived experience, choosing this lifestyle can feel unavailable. You've heard me talk about it a million times that when I first committed to vegan living, I did not see so many people like me. I didn't see them. They were clearly out there somewhere, but I wasn't 22. I wasn't particularly counterculture in any way. I had a fairly traditional family and food styles, and I was a mother of 3 adults and a businesswoman. I was in my 50s. I had a full life. I had decades and decades of non-vegan habits behind me, and yet, bit by bit, I felt called to this path, ethically, environmentally, physically, but I had to become a person that I really hadn't seen yet in my peer group. And that's why I started Veg Your Best, because I knew I couldn't be the only one looking around to see if this could work for a 50-something-year-old mom or grandmother. And I wanted this podcast to focus on helping some folks see themselves in this lifestyle at any age. And that I didn't do it overnight perfectly, and that I did have doubts to overcome, and I did have a brain that kept trying to talk me out of it and ask whether there weren't some other things that needed to be focused on first, and bring up all the ways that were impossible or not going to work or might not work or might complicate things at home, and why even try if it's not going to work perfectly. But I wanted to share a little bit of what I had spent time looking for and finding. And that's some real world vegan visibility. And once I was brave enough, once I was brave enough to ask people to be on Veg Your Best podcast, my guests, well, they've been so inspiring to see how many ways people show up and make vegan living visible. Ordinary ways, but powerful ways. And I'm not going to go through every guest on the podcast. There have been so many, but there were a few that just jumped out when I was thinking of this topic today. Matt Shepard, the co-host of How to Vegan podcast, showing up at his park runs and races with his Vegan Runners shirt. I think Greg Miles also, who was on the podcast, I think he's one of the vegan runners in the UK. They show up individually or as a group in different park runs, your typical kind of 5K race, sometimes much more extensive races, but they wear that t-shirt. It says Vegan Runner. It's a small sign that says you can be healthy, strong, active, and powered by plants. And similarly, Jim Moore, a recent guest and the host of Bloody Vegans podcast and Bloody Vegans Productions, he introduced us to the Green Gazelles, the world's first all-vegan rugby club. I haven't interviewed that club yet, but it's a team of tough, competitive athletes showing that compassion and strength are not opposites. They're teammates. So these moments of visibility in real life start to shift narratives. They start to expand the story of what we think is vegan or plant-based. And it's been one of the best parts of having this podcast. It's been meeting people whose very presence in this space makes things feel more possible for others just by having carved out their choices and speaking it out loud. It makes it feel more possible for others. You know, we just mentioned Greg Miles because I think he's a vegan runner too. A former IT professional. He saw his family member create a vegan business, and he reinvented himself as a vegan entrepreneur with a beautiful line of cork-based fashion accessories, a CC style. And Greg shows us that it's never too late to pivot, to build a business aligned with your ethics and your creativity. And the Latina health coach, Carla Salinari, she brings plant-based wellness specifically to everybody, but specifically targeted to her community, Spanish-speaking community, celebrating Latina cultural heritage. And she proves you don't have to abandon your community or your traditions. You can elevate them through your conscious, compassionate choices. Dr. Janelle Gordon, board certified in family, obesity, and lifestyle medicine, changing how we talk about hormonal health and gut balance and plant-based nutrition. And she walks the walk in the clinic, at home, in her community, showing people that vitality and healing are absolutely possible. And podcast favorite Henry Mance, journalist from the Financial Times of London, shared how researching animal ethics and environmental impact solidified his plant-based choices. His book and his reporting make the case with a lot of curiosity and intellectual honesty. I know his book, How to Love Animals, was a pivotal book for loads of people, and so many of my listeners mentioned it. And of course, among so many others, Victoria Moran. I mean, each guest has added his or her own unique lens to what it means to be a real person, making real vegan life visible. But that visibility does not require a social media platform. And you might be thinking, well, I'm not a podcast host, I'm not a physician, I'm not an author, I don't have a business or a running club. But the truth is, you do not need a professional platform to be visible. Your life is your platform. Who have been the most impactful people in your life? You're probably going to say somebody in your real life, a parent, a grandparent, an uncle, a teacher, someone IRL, as the kids say, someone in real life. Your life is a real platform. Our choices are visible, and your presence really matters. Every single time you bring a vegan dish to a potluck or veganize a traditional dish at your family's holiday, every time you tell your grandkids about animal sanctuaries or foster a pet or adopt a shelter dog, every single time you ask a restaurant for a plant-based option or support a vegan business or carry an attractive cork bag or belt or rave about a cruelty-free cosmetic that you've tried, every single time someone else is listening, someone else is watching. You are showing someone what's possible. You're being the person you maybe once needed to see. So let me offer a very short thought for the week. Who did you need to see when you were first exploring a plant-based life? That's what I try to do now. That's the entire mission of Veg Your Best. Trying to be the person I needed to see when I was first exploring this life. And how can you be the person for someone else now? You might be very, very surprised who's watching you. And you might be, I bet you will be, the reason someone takes their first step. So, if this episode resonated with you at all, please share it. Send it to a friend. Post it to your stories. Mention it at your next family dinner. I don't care. I don't care who listens. I just would love to share this. And if someone in your life did help you see the possibility of a plant-based lifestyle, please, maybe today's the day to mention it to him or to her, to thank them. Because remember, it's really hard. We can't be what we can't see. But thanks to you, someone can see herself or himself maybe making that one plant-based choice or learning something about the way vegan choices are possible just because they see you. Just because they see you veg your best. Veg Your Best podcast production, music, and editing by Charlie Weinshank. Thanks, Charlie. Before you go, it would mean so much to me and the Veg Your Best team if you would hit subscribe, leave us a 5-star review, or share with someone you think might be interested. Something about algorithms, it helps bump us up a little in the rankings, and that's the best way to help others find the podcast and for us to find our audience. So, until next week, make it easy and veg your best.